Do you love creating body butters but find that they can be incredibly frustrating in summer when they melt away just to oil, or in winter when they get so firm that you almost need a chisel to get them out of the tin? In that case, it sounds like you need to consider formulating an emulsified body butter. An emulsified body butter is brilliant because it is stable at much bigger temperature ranges, meaning it's not going to melt away to nothing in summer, and it's not going to be thick and hard and difficult to get out of a tin in winter. It's also going to be a lot more suited to shipping if you are selling your products, and all in all, it's generally just a lot more stable. Welcome to our channel. My name is Anne, and along with my good friend Wayne, we run the Sussex Handmade Soap Company, and we also run this YouTube channel. Now, I am a big fan of body butters, and if you saw our video on Tuesday, you will have seen us actually create a tallow-based body butter, and it was an anhydrous formulation, which means it does not include any water. That is a body butter that I have used a couple of times, and I really like it for softening my dry skin and just giving my body a little bit of extra love. However, because it hasn't got the water, it's not emulsified, it does tend to melt away. So today we are taking our formulating one step further, and I'm going to show you how to create an emulsified body butter that isn't going to face half the issues that your regular body butters face when they have extremes of temperature. So how do you make an emulsified body butter? It is definitely more challenging than creating an anhydrous body butter, where essentially all you have to do is melt down your oils, mix them together, whip them up a bit, and it is essentially done, because we do need some different ingredients. To create an emulsification, we do need some distilled water. So that is going to be our very first ingredient in our emulsified body butter today. And I've also got some glycerin that I've already added into our water phase here. And as always, you can see the full amounts down in the description. I will post the recipe, and it will have the weights in grams of all the ingredients I've used today. So this is our water phase, and when you are creating emulsions, you generally have 2 or 3 phases. You have a water phase, you have an oil phase, and you generally have a cool down phase as well, which is where you add your heat sensitive ingredients. We have got 3 phases today. The water, as I've explained, the glycerin and distilled water. And it's important to use distilled water when you are making emulsifications, purely because the water will remain in the product, so we want it to be as pure as possible. When it comes to the oil phase, there are a number of ingredients, just here, these 4, that we are using in our oil phase today. We are using a liquid carrier oil, and we have chosen to use jojoba oil. I really like jojoba oil for its skin loving properties, but you could substitute it out for a different carrier oil if you wished to, and that would be on a like for like basis. You would keep the weight the same. We have then got some shea butter. And again, you can swap it out for another butter if you wish to. You could try cocoa, you could try mango. So as we are making an emulsified body butter today, it goes without saying that we are going to need an emulsifier. And an emulsifier is an ingredient that allows the water and the oil to bind, to combine, and to create that nice kind of rich cream without separating. Today, I have chosen to use Ecomulse as our emulsifier. This is sometimes also known as Ritamulse, but within the UK, I've generally seen it branded as Ecomulse, and I purchased this from the soap maker's store. Now, I quite like Ecomulse. It is classed as a natural emulsifier. It has an anionic or a negative charge. Just be aware of that, because it does mean that it may not work with cationic or positively charged ingredients. That could cause the emulsions to fail and split if you mix a positively charged ingredient with this negatively charged emulsifier. This has also got quite a high electrolyte tolerance. We don't need to worry too much about that today, but I will be doing some recipes down the line where certain other ingredients will introduce electrolytes. So we are choosing to use one with quite a high electrolyte tolerance. It may not make much sense what I'm saying. Don't worry about it too much. We will cover it down the line in further videos. Now, the ideal pH range for Ecomulse is 5 to 7.5, and the body butter we are formulating today, I am intending to fall within that range. If the pH of your final products falls below 5, there is a chance that the emulsifier could fail, and that could cause your products to split. So again, just be aware of that when you are formulating your products, and check that the final pH is going to be suitable for use with your chosen emulsifiers. And further down the line, we will be experimenting with other emulsifiers as well, so we will get to what certain ones are good for and not good for as we get further down our kind of lotion and body butter formulating series. An Ecomulse is an oil-soluble emulsifier, so it does need to be added into the oil phase of your formulations. Next, we have got some cetyl alcohol, or cetyl. I'm never entirely sure how exactly to pronounce that. I tend to say cetyl alcohol, but there's part of me that thinks it might be technically more correct to say cetyl. It's just pronunciation. You guys are used to me not being the best with my pronunciation of the funny words that I haven't really heard, I've only read before. So cetyl alcohol is going to add a nice kind of slip to our finished body butter. It's going to make it feel nice on the skin. But in addition to that, we are using it today as a thickener for our body butter. So it's going to help it to thicken up and just generally feel pretty nice, pretty thick. It's just going to make our body butter feel better than it would do if we didn't use it. So the third phase in our emulsification today is our cool down phase, and these are the ingredients that we need to add once we have made our emulsification and it is below 40 degrees centigrade. These are ingredients that are heat sensitive, and there's only two today. We have got some lavender essential oil to give it a nice little scent, and we have also got our preservative. And today I am using preservative 12. What I found when I was learning about emulsifications, and I have been learning about emulsifications for probably the last 3 or 4 years, and it's only kind of now that I feel like I know enough to bring them to the channel a little bit. I was researching, and a lot of the research I was doing and videos I was watching were from people within the US or other countries, and quite often when it came to preservatives they used either Optifen or Liquid Germal Plus. Now here in the UK, Liquid Germal Plus is banned for use, and I cannot find Optifen anywhere, although I don't think it's banned. Could be, not sure, just never seen it. So it was really difficult when I first started the formulating to follow a recipe and then see that they were using a preservative I couldn't get, and it was tough to know what to substitute it with. So I'm hoping that the fact that we're in the UK, if you're also in the UK and you've had that problem, the ingredients I'm using are going to be ones that you can find in the UK. So hopefully that will help. Today, preservative 12. Now, this is stable at pH ranges of 3 to 12, so it has got a really broad range for levels at which it is stable. Today our formulation is going to be around about pH 5, just slightly higher, so this is perfect for that. It is only partially water soluble, so it's going to be best when it is added to creams and lotions, emulsified body butters. Don't try and use it in things like body washes or shampoos because it will not work well for that. The usage rate is generally 0.5 to 1%. We are using it at 1% today. The maximum usage rate is 1.1%, but I would only go up that high if I was adding sort of infused herbal ingredients to my products, which I'm not today. So we're going to go at 1% today. And even though it can tolerate higher temperatures, we are adding it at the cool down phase below 40, just because it is generally better to add it below 40. So that is all about our preservative. I think I've covered all of the ingredients. We've done the water, we've done the glycerin, we've done the jojoba. Yep, all ingredients are covered. So those are our 3 phases: water, oil, cool down. We are going to begin with the water phase. Very, very easy. Let's get these out the way. So our water phase today is just 2 ingredients: distilled water and glycerin. Now, as I said, I have already weighed the glycerin into the distilled water, so our water phase has already been combined. What I'm going to do now is just weigh the whole jar, see what it comes out at. And that is so, once we have heated it, we can replace any water that has been lost through evaporation. So today this weighs 132.1 grams. So I'm just going to note that down. And then once we have heated it, we will replace the water that has evaporated away. And to try and prevent too much evaporation, I am going to cover it with some foil, because if we don't cover it, we will lose a lot more water and we don't want to lose too much. So a nice tight seal there with the foil should prevent too much water loss. Now we can move on to our oil phase. And for our oil phase, all we are going to do is add all of our oil phase ingredients together into a little glass pot. Unfortunately, this little glass pot is a little too small, so we will actually need to do some shifting about of our oil phase once it has been heated. I want to get a bigger glass jar that can be heated, but the only glass jars I've got are not in fact glass, they are plastic, so they won't heat up very well. Going in with our emulsifier now. And lastly, we are going in with our acetyl alcohol. And that is our oil phase. So now we need to heat our oil and our water phases. I'm going to pop our cool down ingredients just out the way for now because we won't need them until later. All I'm going to do is pop both the water phase and the oil phase into a saucepan. And I'm going to pour just boiled water into the pan, roughly, I don't know, a quarter of a third of the way up the glasses. Not too much so that it bubbles away too violently. That should do it. And now I'm going to take these over to my stove, which I'm going to put on the lowest setting, which for us is number 1. And I'm going to leave it for about half an hour until both phases have heated and all of the ingredients in our oil phase have melted. I know some people talk about heating and holding your ingredients. I have read arguments for and against heating and holding. I personally am not going to heat and hold. I have made my emulsifications before without heating and holding. They work well. I'm just not a fan of the heat and hold method. So if you are, feel free to do it, but I'm not going to. So our oil and our water phases are now over on the hob, gently melting, and that should take about half an hour. And while they are over there melting, let me tell you about our Patreon video that is coming tomorrow. It is actually a kind of furthering on of today's emulsified body butter recipe. We will be making the same recipe, but we will be doing a couple of little tweaks to it just to show you different ways that you can create and customize this formula. One of the two tweaks will be using sodium lactate instead of glycerin, and we'll be talking about how to incorporate that, why we would want to make that switch, and other considerations that we need to make because we have made that switch. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the formulating, a little bit more about the tweaks, then do consider signing up to us on Patreon or indeed on Buy Me a Coffee. The video will be on there also for our members, because we will be sharing over the coming weeks a lot more video recipes and delving a little bit deeper into various different things. Right, let's go and see if those oils and waters have melted yet. They won't have done. I'm just going to have a little sit down while they finish melting. So our ingredients have now heated. As you can see, looking in here, our oil phase has now completely melted. And it got up to around about 65 degrees centigrade. I know that some people say that you have to heat to at least 70 to get a stable emulsification. Mine generally don't go as high as 70. I generally get to around about 65. Then I find it really hard to get them up that last 5 degrees. So in all honesty, I just stopped worrying about it. And so far, I have never noticed any detrimental effects. I've never noticed my emulsifications splitting. So unless that happens, I'm just going to keep doing it this way because it's a heck of a lot easier than fighting with the stove to get it up that last 5 degrees. In terms of our water, we are now going to take off our foil, pop that to one side, and we are now going to weigh it to see how much has been lost to evaporation. We are at 131.6, 131.7, 131.6. So we need to add in enough water, so half a gram of distilled water, to bring it back up to 132.1, which is that. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is transfer both our oil and water phases into my larger beaker. As I said, if I'd had a larger glass beaker that would have held the oil phase and the head of the blender, I would have just left the oil phase in the glass beaker, but as I don't, I am transferring to this plastic one, popping the water phase in first. And once I've done this, we are going to whisk it with the immersion blender. Mind you, today I suppose it is an emulsion blender, for about 30 seconds. And I learnt this technique for body butter whipping from Marie at Humblebee and me, and so far it's always worked pretty well for me. So transferring, dry the bottom of that first, and then it will be a quick whiz for 30 seconds and then switching to some hand stirring. So getting out as much of this oil phase. Oh, I do need to order a better glass beaker. Let's do that today, Wayne, so that I don't have to faff about like this too many more times. Going in with the immersion blender, making sure it is down on the base of the beaker and giving it 30 seconds. And now I'm just going to switch to hand stirring our mix. As you can see, it is still relatively thin and drippy in there. I counted the seconds in my head. I think I counted them slightly slower than a second actually is. So I might have gone a little bit over. Normally I have my phone to time me, but I don't know where that is right now. So we're just going to stir until it starts to thicken, just slowly stirring, no need to rush it or anything. And I can see a couple of little air bubbles in there, which do make me think that perhaps my seconds were a little too slow. Never mind, it will be fine. And as you can see now, it has started to thicken up a little bit. We are getting it kind of coating the spatula. You can probably see those little air bubbles. If I'd emulsified it with the blender for slightly less time, they probably wouldn't have been present. Clearly, I cannot count very well, but we already knew that because I lost a game based on counting recently. All I had to do was count to 60. Couldn't count to 60. Right, now, and again, this is what Marie said worked really well, so I tested it and it does. You go back in with the immersion blender and give it 4 to 5 quick, short bursts. So after doing that, you can see that it is now really starting to thicken up. And I'm just going to continue stirring it gently until the temperature drops down to below 40 and we can add in our cool down ingredients. And this shouldn't take very long at all. Right, so it's now registering at 39 degrees, so we can add in our cool down ingredients. So I'm going to carefully pour my cool down ingredients into the mix and then use the spatula to just work them in. And certain preservatives can cause emulsions to thin out a little bit at this point. But I don't notice it massively thinning with preservative 12. Perhaps a touch, but nothing too detrimental. That's the kind of thickness we are working with now. And it will continue to thicken as it cools as well. So it's still quite nice and thick. And we are also going to test the pH level because, as I said, we need it to be between 5 and 7.5 so that our emulsification doesn't fail. So I'll show you how to do that once we've got it decanted into its jar. Tin. And just spooning it in. So you can see we have got quite a nice thick consistency already. The essential oil I used for scent, by the way, today was lavender. I used lavender because it's Wayne's absolute favourite scent. He can't get enough of it, can you? You love it. I'm joking, he can't stand it. I like it though, so I thought a nice little calming lavender body butter would work. But you could use any essential oil or a blend of essential oils that is safe for use at 1% in leave-on body products. So here is the body butter that we have just created. It is still warm to the touch in this tin, but you can see it's holding a nice shape, so quite a nice thick consistency. If I can just pop a little bit on there, you can see it's quite a nice thick consistency there on my hand. And for comparison, this is another body butter made with the Ecomulse, you know, made to the same recipe that I made yesterday as a final tester before doing this video. And this one, oh, I've taken far too much. I've done what the people at our shows do. You can see it's got a really nice thick buttery consistency. And if you're not an idiot and don't put too much on, I can show you how well it goes into. Right, let's switch hands. I'm going to take a little bit because a little goes a long way. Pop it onto my hand and you can see it gets nicely incorporated. It doesn't give the soaping effect too much, there is a little bit of white there, but it blends it in nicely. Right, final step, let me show you how to check that pH. So to test the pH of your products, I really do recommend investing in a pH meter. It is so much more accurate than the pH testing strips that you can buy, and they're not overly expensive. I think this one costs us about £15 on Amazon, and it has definitely made things a heck of a lot easier. To test the pH, we need to make a 10% solution of our body butter in water. So what that means is I have got 36 grams of distilled water here, and I'm going to add in 4 grams of our body butter. Now I'm going to use our little glass rod to mix them together until it is nicely incorporated, dissolved. I mean, we're trying to dissolve a kind of oily product in water, but it will kind of blend in and dissolve if we give it enough of a stir. And then all we want to do next is place our pH meter into our solution. And I do find that it takes sometimes quite a little while for the pH meter to actually drop to where it should be. So our pH is reading at 6.0, which for me is okay for our body butter. I mean, it is verging towards the higher side, but 6 is still absolutely fine for a skin product. If I wanted to, I could use a little bit of a citric acid just to bring down the pH to the 5.5 range. But honestly, I'm happy enough with it sitting at 6. I just wouldn't want it to veer any higher than that. Right, I'm going to rinse off our pH meter with some distilled water, give it a wipe and then pop it away. So that is how we create and pH check our emulsified body butters. As I was saying, the pH 6.0 is kind of on the upper limit of where I would want it to sit. The pH is absolutely fine for the preservative. It falls within the good range for the preservative. It falls within a good range for our emulsifier. It is at the top end of what I would want in a body butter for the skin. And if I was formulating it to sell, I may well add a small amount of citric acid solution just to lower the pH ever so slightly, probably to around the 5.5 mark. But it is still in the okay range for skin. It's not going to be detrimental. I mean, once you start getting more towards neutral and alkaline, that's when you have issues using products on skin. 6 is still slightly acidic, as is the skin's natural pH, so it's going to be okay. I just tend to favour the 5.5 range for products that I'm actually selling. If you've enjoyed today's video, where we have shown you what is probably one step further along the formulating journey than creating an anhydrous body butter, then do please like and subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment and leave us any questions that you've got. And if you do want to follow along with further recipes and formulas where we go into a little bit more depth on Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee, I will drop the links for both of those into the description as well. Thank you for watching today. Have a lovely day and we will see you on Tuesday for, I don't know what yet, but it'll be something. See you on Tuesday.